and innovative thinking, and label ourselves, including Ran, Kexin, and myself, we can be a noisy thinker. The reason I'm thinking about using the noisy thinker terminology is because we discover some problems existing in our current science parks. And we use our sites here in South Australia. We developed interviews with number of companies, owners there, and also interviewed the park management team. And we found in reality, we are far behind of this idealist world. Yeah. And given, I won't name the park, but when I describe the issues, you may realize that is, they have been developed for many decades. However, given the policy shift from time to time, and also the moving from different directions, they found that the sense of loss in a way. So then I think for South Australian citizens, generally, how can we rebuild our science park or technology park with new momentum? Certainly we have Lot 14, as I think one of the gentlemen asked a question about Lot 14, and also Caroline responded that there's no competition between different region or different park, whatever. But how we rebuild and develop the momentum of the established technological park. Yeah, so that's the purpose for us. So maybe our result could be negative, but we hope we can provide some insight, understanding about how can we really build an effective technological park in South Australia for the future competitiveness. So I won't go to the definition of science park. Everybody knows there's a location focused on new technology, supporting high-tech company, using different policy in different initiatives and incentives, and also building bridges between players, between different stakeholders, and promoting innovation and transform from innovative ideas, technology into innovative products, so on and so forth. Yeah. And generally speaking, we say tangibly, science park provide a physical infrastructure with good location, good kind of collaboration between universities and between industry partners with government support. Yeah. And also could be an important incubator for transferring innovation research into innovative output. However, many scholars point out their lack of certain support, and many poor performance indicators show that eventually the science park didn't deliver as a regional innovative hub as expected. So our key research question is try to find what will be effective way to improve this innovation facilitating role of science park. And based on the literature, as scholars, we also do research based on literature, then generating conceptual patterns. Based on the place-based approach, the two focus for science park. One is for value creation, another one is for value capture. Value creation is really about the science park playing the important role as a bridging the stakeholders, different stakeholders, to create an ecosystem for innovation in order to create new values. And they require jointly work together closely. Yeah. So then science park provide that platform, enable different players work closely. Secondly, for value capture, the science park should play as a policy instrumental role, retaining part of the value created in the region. It's not just okay for commercialization, for creating new products, whatever, but obtain certain value for regional advantages. So enable the region to create competitive and comparative advantages through innovation, through collaboration. So that in a way that capture the value within that region. Yeah. So, however, we say that many issues related to inefficient management system within science park could be related to lack of support for innovation. For example, financial support or other business support could be crucial for creating new values. On the other hand, sometimes related to adequate governance policies, building partnership between different players, and also market environment related to regional-based competition or national-based competition, for example. So early question about maybe their competition between law 14 and other region, and Caroline explained that there's no competition, but from a form perspective, there could be potential competitions, and then probably being seen some region could be a favorable region with more new policy, new support, other region or established technological park or science park being seen as maybe been there for many years, leave you alone, allowed you create by yourself, so on and so forth. So people can have a different perceived value in their own way. Yeah, so then we have to make it very clear about how can we maintain that balanced approach. Yeah. Also, there's a social economic condition in different regions. Some region maybe particular focus on certain type of industry compared with other regions, and sometimes related to the region, the location as well. So these are the some of the key concepts we will use. We select one of the technological park in South Australia. As I mentioned that we interview a number of people, managing companies, also the science park management system. We adopt a paradoxical analysis, the way we want to identify some positive element as well as some negative element in order to reflect the true reality. So we are not just making things looking good, but we have to find out what's the substance within that operation, what are the difficulties, what are the barriers, what are the constraints exist there. How can we overcome these problems for future better innovative outcome? Yeah. So in a way that when we interview people, the administrators, also the managers or owners of companies mention that the location is wonderful because near the university location, a particular university provides science, technological support in that location, and people can easily walk into university, talk to the department or staff members, develop a new collaboration project, and also using PhD students and other research students to facilitate research together. However, one of the problems they were saying that is that the infrastructure is good, the platform is good, but the lack of synergy. The synergy is between players within that location, for example. I think people use a coffee center element. Certainly it's a coffee center. People get together, science park administration, organize regular breakfast or coffee time together. This is just a kind of a platform for social engagement. However, there are no information sharing session, for example. They don't know each other in the way, in detailed way. What do you do? What kind of technology you adopt? What kind of innovative outcome you're looking for? So companies operating in the technological park do not have sufficient information to build the collaboration among themselves. And the management system in the technology park also has not provided adequate support in this regard. So in a way, the goal for both companies and also for science park administration, all about innovation outcome. However, the way of doing these things, in particular in an intangible way, is still lacking. That's one of the barriers for facilitating innovation, for example. And also other issues such as a hinder for collaborative IP development. As you know, the different stakeholders work together. The creating IP and developing further IP commercialization are two different stages. Certainly, many companies they create R&D, develop IP by themselves. But in terms of commercialization, transform into output products, they need collaborations. However, the current management system in the science park or technology park, and also government, do not have sufficient IP protection mechanism for encouraging collaborations. So that's one of the hurdles. Company mentioned that we want to work together to develop a collective-oriented IP based on our initial creation of IP. However, the current kind of system or mechanism not sufficient protecting the collaborative-oriented IP. Yeah, that's one of the issues. So that kind of mechanism should be considered and strengthened in the future development for encouraging collaborations among players. The third one, fundamentally, limited development potential is insufficient financial support. There, I think our system is not really linked with science park with big venture capital in a way. So maybe in other countries like Silicon Valley or other European countries, you can see financial hub working together with a technological hub, and they work together closely. However, our technological hub are far away from a financial involvement. So technology park doesn't have any vehicles for venture capital to operate in a sense. So individual operators rely on their connection, maybe go out science park, able to persuade the investment and whatever like that. So there's another kind of disadvantages we need to pay attention to as well. Another area is about the long-term growth versus short-term survival. Particularly when we have financial crisis or we have a pandemic, for example, recently. The short-term survival drive organizational operation, predominantly short-term thinking, maybe 2 years, maximum maybe 3 years. However, the technological capability relies on sustainable development. And in a way, there is a contradiction between short-term survival. How can we survive in 1 year or in 2 years? And then maybe focus on too much on short-term driven consideration and forget about long-term sustainable plan. And we ask companies there, basically they don't have long-term plan, no plan beyond 5 years, basically. And so in a way that the science park maybe face dilemma, that is, if all the players within your science park do not have a substantial long-term plan, how can you make sure your science park can survive long term, actually? So that's one of a kind of a barrier as well. In terms of contextual factors, I will be quickly finishing these slides. Yeah, government support is crucial, and particularly in terms of that technological part is located in one particular region under the local government support. And the state government also support from time to time, and national government basically too far away from this, not very clear in a way their involvement. But if government, national government say that innovation, whatever, the paper, the working paper document looks so fantastic, need to come to the grassroots level to support this established science park. And also we have facing this government change from time to time between different parties, and they have different priority from time to time. So then the consistent government support is important for long-term growth and development. And also external partners, as I mentioned that internally within the science park, they need more synergy to work together. And also so far they say they work with university closely, that's no problem. But between players, between companies, it's a kind of a problematic. But also external engagement. For example, if we have a lot 14, we have other area, industry cluster, whatever, built up And how can we link these different players in different regions together? We need to consider that. Let's maybe overcome the imbalanced approach between some people see, oh, the other region or other like new technological park become more favorable. So then we treat everybody equally in that way, gaining equal sharing opportunity for all the players within South Australia. I think it's important. And certainly competitive environment, not only within South Australia, but nationally and internationally. And we need to consider how can we help our companies here to maintain that international competitiveness. So for example, financial support is not adequate. How can we make sure they can compete globally, for example? Yeah. And certainly social economic condition in that region. Certainly university is located there. We can help them. But beyond university, there are what other players we can help? And Kershin mentioned about the neighbor things, neighborhood issues. Yeah, how do the neighbors support each other in that region? Yeah, so particularly the location. Sometimes we maybe focus on too much on city, for example, in the CBD areas. But don't forget that technological park or science park also a hub for regional rural development as well. So how can we develop different type of technological or science park with different orientation? For example, agricultural business could be one of the key areas for South Australia. Do we have an agricultural-based kind of technological park in South Australia? How can we build that one if we don't have a sufficient hub like that? Yeah. So generally speaking, this is our final conceptual model in the way that on the one hand, we promote innovation as a goal. However, on the other hand, we lack of a coherent facilitation and synergy to realize it. Secondly, on the one hand, we emphasize strengthening collective IP development. On the other hand, we lack of IP protection to facilitate it. Third area, developing business model rely on external capital. However, we do not have sufficient external capital investment in the innovation areas. Fourthly, required long-term growth for both science park and the high-tech company. However, the reality drive them become more short-term focused. With the contextual influences such as inconsistent government support, probably, and external partners, university and other company support, including neighborhood support, creating competitive environment for them to survive long run, and other social economic conditions in the science park enable them to gain substantial growth. Yeah, thank you very much. That's my talk.
Thank you. I don't know whether you have any comments, questions on the floor. And also, by the way, for online audience, we have an online chat function. So if you have any questions, please type in the chat or Q&A box. So we welcome your questions or comments. Yeah, Harry.
I was just wondering, and it crossed my mind, and that calling the technology and science park language is almost the language from sort of the early phase of beginning to set up collaborations between companies, often in areas where land was reasonably cheap, so it was a good place for a company to be. But there wasn't at that time a sense beyond the real estate about, and the fact that similar industries were being placed or were placing themselves in that zone. There wasn't at that time a view that it was perhaps more than the shared technology interests to build something greater than the whole. And I just wonder whether the rebranding, renaming a technology and science park as a manufacturing or high-tech innovation district, whatever the name is, to just fast forward, it sometimes occurs to me in listening to other discussions about other countries where the science and technology park didn't quite take off because it was a bit distant and it was real estate. The concept of innovation economies were nascent at that time. So have you reflected on that? Do you think there's an opportunity to, in a sense, lift the expectations of itself through its name?
Good, very good question. I think the initial idea, as you say, that based on real estate development, the regional council, whatever, want to promote economy in that region using the cheap land, build some infrastructure, plus a connection with university campus, for example. That's very good. In terms of new name, I think that innovation hub could be good term rather than science park or technology park. That is old fashioned. The goal is for innovative outcome. No matter what we did in terms of R&D, innovation, whatever, we want to commercialize these things. Without commercialization, it's really just no result, basically. I think innovative hub could be a good term for the future. Thank you. There's a one from online question.
If you can read the question, probably can respond straight away.
Could you give example of collaboration-oriented IPs? I think that the R&D-based IP can be protected individually for company. But for example, my company create a new technology, whatever. I want to work with you. I will invite you to work with me. However, when we create a collaborative input, the delay of recognizing the IP or registering IP of certain platform providing collective IP is not there to support at this stage. So then I worry about if I share my technology innovative outcome with you, and you may work with me on certain area at the moment, but you may take my IP away, maybe doing something altogether later from different direction, whatever. And then how to recognize who did what? That's the challengeable issue at the moment. Thank you.